Hey, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you hopping in here for this live. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and this is meteorologist Frank Gaetano, account executive here at Hail Trace. Now, Frank, we appreciate you being here today. Like many people at Hail Trace, you storm chase quite often, and as the anniversary of Michael is approaching, we are glad that you had time to sit down with us and tell us your stories from this historic hurricane.
Yeah, Hurricane Michael, that was a doozy. I mean, it's the only Cat 5 I've ever been in. I'm pretty sure everybody else here at Hill Trace, me and Derek are the only ones that were in Cat 5, so it was a big one.
You got some really crazy video from down there, but I want to start before we get to some of that video at the very beginning. What made you go and want to chase this hurricane in the first place?
Well, I mean, Derek wants usually to chase all the hurricanes we can. I mean, it's great for, taking wind speed measurements and, being down there in case people need help. And obviously, we get content from that as well. So we've always really tried to chase all the hurricanes we can, and we definitely weren't going to miss the opportunity to be down there for a Cat 5.
Did you know whenever you were headed down there, this was going to be a Cat 5?
No, we did not. No. We knew it was probably going to be a major hurricane, but the rapid intensification, like right before rain or landfall, was, I mean, there's a reason I'm known as the person who strengthens hurricanes around here. I'm kind of known for that. When I go to a hurricane, there's usually some rapid intensification right before landfall. It's probably the only reason Derek takes me.
Is because there's going to be really good video if Frank's involved.
Yeah.
Speaking of, so you guys bring all of this equipment with you. What is the process to determine where to set up cameras? Do you set up cameras separate from where you are? What does the process look like to get that footage?
We usually have a camera in the dash, but for a lot of the hurricanes, we end up holding up inside of a parking garage. So we'll usually have a camera that's like a Hail Trace camera filming. We hop on Facebook Live to try to do lives for as long as we can. The power usually goes out, so we end up losing cell service at some point. But mainly it's cell phone video, the camera video, and then we bring GoPros. We'll try to set those up in places. So particularly for Michael, we were held up in a parking garage that we picked out on our way down there. I remember we were driving, and as soon as we got to Alabama, I hopped on the phone on Google Maps. I was literally just on Google Maps, like zooming into Panama City, like trying to find a parking garage. We found one. It was right next to a church. So we went to that parking garage. I set up a GoPro on the basement of that parking garage. So there was like this big iron gate down there. And I triple wrapped that thing. I was making sure it wasn't going to move because at this point, we get there and it's fast approaching. We know this is probably going to be a Cat 5, and I didn't want it to go anywhere. So I set up a GoPro on that gate facing across the street. And after the hurricane passes, we go down there to get the camera, and the entire basement of this parking garage is flooded with about 2 feet of water. And there's a metal roof where that gate stood. And the camera was gone, the gate was gone. So we actually spent like 30, 45 minutes waiting around through 2-foot deep water trying to find the GoPro. And we never found it. We never actually found it. So somewhere out there is a GoPro with probably some pretty neat footage on there.
You think that roof came into that metal gate, flew into that metal gate during the hurricane?
Yeah.
And the camera was gone?
Yep.
Wow, that's crazy. But you waited out the hurricane in that same parking garage. Did you have any thoughts during that hurricane? This is a Category 5. I've never done a Category 5 before. Were you nervous about that?
No, I know parking garages are pretty safe, to withstand the winds that stuff kind of brings. I mean, there's a couple of moments where, you go, oh man, this is, you can feel the parking garage shaking. There were times when the winds really picked up where, I had to like duck behind cars because there's sticks and branches flying through there. And then additionally, there was one time we were kind of running low on our battery for stuff, like all of our cameras and phones. And we were like, okay, we need to find a time when we can get to the truck. And so we parked the truck. So not on the roof, like the open exposed roof, but that ramp area that opens up to the exposed roof, that's where we parked the truck. And far away from the truck on the same level, somebody had brought their belongings. There was like couches and chairs and stuff tied to a trailer. And so we were about to go to the truck to charge our equipment. And as we were about to take our first step, a huge gust came through, probably 140 or over, and sent the couch that was on that trailer flying into the truck. And so we were like, okay, we should just wait a couple minutes here. So like that was really the only kind of dangerous moments we had, but parking garages are really safe. So, we don't really feel like we're in danger when we're in a nice, secure place like that.
What is the saying? You run from the water, hide from the wind. Is that correct?
Yeah, right?
That was a moment that you were like, gotta hide from this wind
Yeah.
and the couch. We talked about how you chose your
guys
position
all right in
to
there?
wait out the storm. Now the
guys
hurricane
okay in
hits.
there?
You kind of told some stories about that, but what were you thinking while the hurricane was hitting? Did you, want to peek your head out the parking garage at all? What was going through your mind? How long did that take until you could come out of the parking garage again?
It was a few hours. We didn't actually get into the eye, so we were a little. The eye went through, what was it, like Mexico City Beach or something like that, Mexico Beach and Panama City Beach. We were in Panama City proper, so we didn't actually get into the eye. So we were in like the eye wall, the outer eye wall for a while. There were a couple moments where we thought about, oh, maybe we can like step out into it, but I mean, ultimately, safety is the number one priority. So we weren't really jumping out into a Cat 5. Yeah, so we didn't hop out into the wind outside the parking garage until things had calmed down to below 80 or so miles an hour.
And then you do get out of the parking garage and you're driving around the town. You're kind of viewing this damage. I know that you've been in several hurricanes before. This is not your first hurricane to chase. What was different, or how did this hurricane compare to the hurricanes that you've chased in the past?
The damage was pretty severe. I remember, I think I made a comment to Derek, it's probably on video somewhere. Just I was looking around, we were trying to find a way out of town, and every turn we took, we couldn't go anywhere. There's, half of a building in the road, trees everywhere. There's a roof of a church in the road. So, like, we couldn't get anywhere. And I remember commenting to him, I was like, this looks like tornado damage. Like, it looked crazy. I'd never seen damage like that from a hurricane until Hurricane Ian last year down in Florida. So that one was pretty bad too. But yeah, I remember just thinking this looks like tornado damage. It was pretty aggressive, and I remember we were in the middle of moving the side of a house that had gone into the road, and we were just pulling it out of the road so we can try to drive through because they were broken up into smaller pieces, so we just pull it out of the road. And I saw two stray dogs run by, and I remember thinking to myself, like, how did they live? Like, it
Yeah.
was so much damage. I didn't think anything could survive through that, like an animal. But the guy that was in the truck, he was like, yeah, no, the animal services will be out here probably tomorrow, and they'll make sure all the animals are okay. So
They'll make sure that they're okay. Now, I know that, getting out from the parking garage to out of town was no easy task. You mentioned that you had to pull parts of a house out of the street so you could get through some of the streets. You were telling me earlier that you also made a friend down there and you were trying to get him back to his house as well. Is that correct?
yes, we picked up a gentleman who was trying to get home, and we spent a pretty long while with him in the truck. I mean, we were just kind of talking, asking us about what we do and that kind of stuff, but we weren't able to get him there. So we were driving, trying to go different routes, getting blocked off, having to turn around, couldn't really make any headway. And then eventually we just came to a spot where there was a down tree and like down power lines and stuff. And he was like, hey man, I appreciate it guys, but like, I'm gonna try to go through there and get home. And he got out of the truck, started crawling through the tree stuff, and that's the last time we saw him.
Tell me about the difference from whenever you first went into the town versus going out of the town. What were some of the different things that you saw?
There was a church that I mentioned already had the whole roof blown off, and a brick building where the sidewall collapsed. Um, there was the Dollar General where the entire front of it was just ripped open. We actually met some people that were on the side of the road, and they basically were like, "Hey, are you guys in contact with the police?" And we're like, "I mean, we are streaming. We're doing live storms media stuff, and well, if you see any police, have them go to the Dollar General because people are going to start looting it soon because there's no front to the store." So the landscape had changed a little bit. There was sheds blown into the road. I didn't really know the landmarks there though, so I mean that church is probably the biggest thing that I noticed because it was a pretty big church and it was kind of near where we were held up. So seeing that afterwards with no roof and the sidewall collapsed into the road and stuff, so yeah, it was pretty bad.
Is there anything else that you think is important here or that you want to share? I know we've got a ton of video from whenever you guys were down at the landfall of Michael, but is there anything else that I've missed today?
I mean, I generally just, if you decide that you want to go chase hurricanes, parking garages is the number one safest spot to be. Um, don't be stupid. I mean, we've been to multiple hurricanes where we see people do stupid stuff. And I mean, I didn't go to Hurricane Laura, but other members of the staff did go down to Hurricane Laura and they saw somebody do something stupid and it almost cost them their life. So if you're going to go chase hurricanes, be smart, don't do stupid things, and also try to provide help where you can. We go down there, we see people that need help, we stop, ask them, we'll give them water and stuff, and so that's really why we do it. Like the content's fine, but we want to be there to one, get the research and get all the readings that we need to, and then two, to make sure that we're able to help people if we can.
What was the highest wind speed that you guys got?
I believe we were in the 130s. But also we were in the parking garage as well. So we weren't able to get great wind readings. We were getting pretty consistent 60s and 70s afterward when we were driving around. So the wind was still blowing pretty good. I think the ASOS station down there clocked something in the 150s near the area. So it was a pretty intense hurricane.
Wow, very impressive. Frank, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you sharing your stories. There were tons of video and different footage that we're going to be sharing on our social medias as well. So make sure to hit that follow button with Hail Trace. We appreciate you being here. Thanks for joining us and thanks for watching today.